I first and foremost give all praise to you. How about you, Mal Shabbat Thumb? Give a sincere greeting to the brothers and sisters scattered across the four corners, teaching this word with sincerity and charity. Brother Phineas, Prince of Power, Israelites. Let me do something very special for y'all. Like, it ain't special, but we gotta keep beating the, you know what I'm saying, cutting at the tree. With this whole Gentile thing, and in this understanding and this notion of that the Gentiles were Hellenized Jews, okay? And we're getting most of this notion from the first Maccabees, the Maccabean Revolt, and the things that went on there. And a lot of us don't understand the things that went on there. Let's just go ahead and read and try to get some understanding here. We're going to read First Maccabees 1 and 7. It says, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. Verse 8, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and the evils were multiplied in the earth. Okay, so after Alexander died, his kingdom was split into 4 provinces or 4 realms. Each of his sons put on crowns, and their sons put on crowns. Each of his leaders or whatever he had in there, you know, Antiochus, Ptolemy, they put on their crowns, and they had these rules in these 4 different provinces. Okay. Verse 10, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, and Antiochus the king, who had been in hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Verse 11. In those days went there out Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, let's go and make a covenant with the heathen there that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Okay, so we see that wicked men, many, did it say many, persuaded many, Israel, wicked men who persuaded many to go out and let's try to make a covenant with these heathen. We're surrounded by these folks. This when you go into that northern kingdom, southern kingdom, you had the Seleucid kingdom, if as the northern kingdom above them, and then you had the Ptolemy up under them. And this you see all these Jewish wars during the Jewish wars, which is 168 BC to 164 BC. You see this conflict because we're caught in the middle of this. Okay, we caught in between Syria and in Egypt, and we're caught right in the middle. So we're like, hey man, let's make a covenant with these folks, man. Because since we departed from them, we've had much sorrow. We were better off with them. Okay, same thing that was going on in Egypt when we went inside the captivity. Went inside of the wilderness. Verse 12, it says, so this device pleased them well. Okay, this idea pleased Israel well. Verse 13, then certain of the people, what people? Israel, were so for herein, that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So they went to the king, and the king the king gave them permission. Yeah, you can be a heathen. You want to be a heathen? Yeah, I ain't even know y'all kicked it like that. Yeah. I give you the ordinance. Here's some permits. Here go a little money, man. Do what y'all need to do. All right, this is what you need to do. Okay, watch verse 12. It says, verse 14. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. They built exercise according to the customs of the heathen. Okay, and what it was really a gymnasium according to the customs of the heathen. What are the customs of the heathen? Let's look at this article from Britannica. It says, Antiochus encouraged the development of cultural clubs called gymnasia, in which people gathered to study, to learn, and to enjoy each other's company. After competing in various forms of athletics, men and women used to soak themselves in hot baths. But because the pursuit of the good included a delight in the body beautiful, such activities were performed naked. A circumcised Jew taking part in the games in a gymnasium could not therefore hide where his loyalty lay. Finally, in 168 BC, Antiochus invaded Jerusalem, desecralized the Holy of Holies in the temple, A number of Jews under their leader Jason and the high priest took the easy way of conformity with the new universal trends. But when with Antiochus impious act, a strong general reaction set in. Thus, when later in the same year, Antiochus entered Jerusalem, this time plundering it. And that's all I have. But we know what happens in the same year. Once he comes back in that same year, um, we have the revolt actually happening. We have the revolt actually happening. And again, this gymnasia was built 168. So the war started about 168. Mattathias is having this thing conquered at about 167. Okay, so from 168, you see the plundering of Israel. You see the ordinance is going out that you can't keep these customs, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't keep the Sabbath. We're going to have one universal religion. And then within the same year, the revolt happens, and Mattathias kicks these people out, run these people out of Judea, takes control, and we'll see what he does. Verse 14 again, whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen. We just read the customs of the heathen, and made themselves uncircumcised and forsook the holy covenant. So a lot of us will use this as a spiritual sense of, and to help push that narrative in the new covenant, because it does speak of, a spiritual circumcision. But this is real. This is literal here. They really uncircumcised themselves. And you can Google that if you want to understand how they did that. Some just mutilated themselves, and some use weights to stretch the foreskin so that they can look uncircumcised when they're in the bath pools, when they're sitting up here wrestling other men naked. And joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. They were sold to do mischief, meaning they were all in on it. Okay, they were all. It was the thing to do. They encouraged other Israelites, man. You got to get into these bath pools, man. You don't know what's been going on, man. We out there wrestling and stuff, man. And then we get into the bath pool. We got these naked women around, man. Anyway, let's okay, so we understand that even before the revolt, Israel already had we was already kind of Hellenized. We was Hellenized. This happens with any superpower. Everybody wants to be like the superpower. Just like America's the superpower today, we want to be like America. The Asians, them samurais, they want to be like the West. Okay, Africa want to be like the West, so they teaching their kids English. All right, they're teaching them English almost sometimes as a first language, because there's opportunities there. They're learning, even the old English is spoke out there in Europe, because some of these African countries, a lot of those folks go to Europe. They see more opportunity in Paris and France, so they learn French. A lot of them, if you get conquered by Islam, a lot of them speak Arabic. So, whoever's the power, this is who's going to bring the influence. Not that you forget who you are under the influence. Not that the samurai, he may put on a suit, but he still has the samurai culture. He still has the tattoos on him. And they may do these things secretly down low, but not that you forget who you are. Not that you forget that your identity. Okay, now you may not play in it at all. I had I used to work for a Jewish bakery, and they were like, when I was wearing my fringes and celebrating all the feast days and so forth, they ain't never said, man, you crazy. They might say it behind closed doors, but they were like, yeah, man, we Jewish too, man. We don't keep none of that stuff though, man. But they knew who they were. They just didn't keep none of it. They didn't really deal with that stuff. They was, they didn't care about that stuff. They weren't dealing with Torah. They really didn't even believe. Some of them could have been atheists. Some of the kids could have been atheists, from what I think. Well, no, I had one say that. You know what I'm saying? Because he couldn't understand. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. And so, it goes into, if we look at chapter 1, verse 48, it says that Antiochus comes in, conquers Judea. He says that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, make their souls abominable. We couldn't keep the Sabbaths. In 48 and down, goes into that, we couldn't keep none of our ordinances, couldn't keep the law. They burnt our books up and so forth. Okay. But again, if we look at chapter 2, chapter 2 goes into Mattathias actually winning this battle, and the Maccabean Revolt started, and he's kicking these folks out and returning everybody to the book. So this period of us not being able to do this is under a year. It's not centuries of, us not keeping the Torah. It's a year. We're not Hellenized by that particular period. We're Hellenized in the fact that this superpower is over us again, just like we're Hellenized today. Let's look at First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 45. It says, then Mattathias, we understand Mattathias started the revolt, kicked these folks out. Then Mattathias and his friends went round about and pulled down the altars, and what children soever they found within the coast of Israel uncircumcised, those they circumcised violently. They pursued also after the proud men, and the work prospered in their hand. They recovered the law out of the hand of the Gentiles and out of the hand of kings. Neither suffered they the sinner to triumph. Now when the time drew near that Matthias should die, he said unto his sons, now have the pride and rebuke gotten strength in the time of destruction, in the wrath of indignation. Now therefore, my sons, be zealous for the law, and give your lives for the covenant of your fathers. So, Mattathias died very shortly after that. He died in 166. All right, the Jewish wars lasted from 168 to 164, but we were on the winning side after the first year, and then from there we are defending ourselves from those consequences. Jokers in their feelings about how Mattathias and Judas went through this thing and rededicated the temple and so forth. And so again, it's not centuries of us not being able to keep our law. We initially didn't even, we were drunk on Rome. I want to say in chapter 8, let me see here. Chapter 8. Yeah, watch this now. Watch this. First Maccabees 8. And again, this is a very, very short span, right? It says, now Judas had heard of the fame of the Romans. Okay, now he look how he lusting after the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that join themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them, and that they were men of great valor. It was told him also of their wars and noble acts which they had done among the Galatians, and how they had conquered them and brought them under tribute, and what they had done in the country of Spain for the winning of the mines of the silver and gold which is there, and that they by their policy and patience they had conquered all the place, though it were very far from them, and the kings also that came against them from the uttermost part of the earth, till they had discomforted them and given them a great overthrow, so that the rest did give them tribute every year. And again, this is what this thing is about. The Romans come in not to really change y'all, man. He wants y'all the same. If you if you go into the Hasmonean, like Romans really wanted a bloodline Jew to be on that throne. This is how Herod finessed his way in. I can't get into all of that, but this is how he finessed his way in, because they understand that the Romans wanted to try to keep the peace in that place. Okay, you had soldiers in there like the United Nations, but they're really there just to keep the peace. They don't want no uproars. They don't want people burning down cities. And throughout all of this is where you get a lot of Israel's leadership trying to cleave unto Rome or trying to cleave unto Greek. And then you have the Pharisees who want to go back to the Torah, want to go back to the law. The Nazarenes really, really, really want to go back to the Torah, and they really want to afflict themselves to the point of not eating or not giving themselves into marriage, baptizing every day, going to the water. But you had the Pharisees who want to go back to the law, want to be more traditional, and these with the different kings and the Seleucids that wanted to be a little more Hellenized. They liked it, the politics of the Hellenization. They still dealt with the Torah slightly, but they did want to usher in some of these other things. So this is why you have the beef between these certain sects. And certain kings during the Hasmonean dynasty comes in, and they may have an alliance to the to the Pharisees. And then you have some that may have, some kings that under the Hasmonean dynasty, which is us ruling us. Some of our kings wanted to be more like the Greeks, and they had their alliance with the Sadducees, and because that's who wanted, so they will put them in. So that they can, convince the people to, it's cool to do these heathen Hellenistic things, man. So we had our own money. It was just, these folks ruling over us, and we got to pay tribute to them. Just like a lot of these countries who want protection from the United States, or they want protection from superpowers like Russia or superpowers like Europe, they have to pay tribute. Okay. You have to pay tribute. You can have your own president. Y'all can be electing your own president. Just give me mine at the end of the year. We come to collect the taxes. Give us our tag. Give us ours. And y'all do what y'all do, man. Just make sure it's peaceful. So when things happen, hurricanes happen in Puerto Rico, and or some civil war happens in some of these third world countries, you have certain organizations that step in and say, hey, you know what, y'all can't be out here killing each other like this. Y'all can have y'all rulers and so forth, but then you have the United Nations come in and be like, well, nah, y'all can't do it like that. All of this is taken from the things that went on during that Roman, during those Greek Roman kind of policies, where eventually, we even had a Sanhedrin that we kind of took from them. But I just want us to really just peel back that first layer and understand that that persecution, that great persecution that we hold on so much, we have to understand that it wasn't even 12 months before we rose up and took over. So when we're saying that, when we go back into the text, we go to the New Testament, and we seeing all these folks uncircumcised, and we're saying that's Northern Kingdom because they forgot to circumcise. We have to understand that Mattathias, the first one who started revolt and ran these folks out, he circumcised all the children that he found in the coast of Israel. Okay, he circumcised those folks. So we will back circumcise. We stopped circumcising for a year, and we will back circumcising all of our children until the return of Christ. Okay, until the return of Christ. So that narrative really doesn't fit when we understand the history. Okay. And when we really read it, if we pull in precepts out of that, then yeah, you can get that. But you really understand the history, it don't make sense. And I leave with this: Northern Kingdom's not even in the Maccabees story. They're already gone. If you're holding on to the narrative that they went down the Euphrates and that's how they got to America, all right, and this is how the Native Americans are Israelites, there ain't no way you can say that these folks, or not just the Native Americans, but the Latinos also, they went down the Euphrates, and they were they already in America at this point during the Maccabean Revolt. And so it wouldn't be heavy in the text if you're saying that. Like, they're not, if they're already over here in America, how are we making all these Gentiles Paul's talking to Northern Kingdom? It don't make sense. And I've showed y'all all the camp leaders who've said these things and told you that, but it's like it's a double tongue, because they'll say it one day, and then the next day they'll still turn around and say, well, nah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, that, there was a few of them in there. But if it's a few, Paul's not speaking to a few people, man. Paul has a whole ministry to these Gentiles, okay? A great multitude, you know what I'm saying? We have a great multitude of believers And he's still calling them Gentiles throughout the whole text. He never comes back and say, well, you know what, these are really our brothers. So until we really understand, well, not saying they really our brothers, but saying that they're really blood Israelites according to the flesh. So Acts 26 is going to be a problem until you get this understanding. Acts 26 is going to be a problem. Romans 11 is going to be a problem. Acts 15 is going to be a problem. Acts 15, Romans 11. Yeah. You know, maybe Acts 22 also. But that King Agrippa situation, that centurion, that Acts 15, with the centurion and the Amos 9:11, that's very problematic. That's gonna be hard for us to jump around. And until you get these, you're not gonna be able to, until you really understand that Maccabean, Hasmonean dynasty, Herodian unless you understand that, you're not going to be able to harmonize the text. Okay, and that's what's happening here. We both wrong. Christians wrong, and Israelites wrong, and we both right at the same time. We both right and we both wrong. So the fight just continues on because we're not making this thing harmonized. And that's what we're here to do. And we make it harmonized by first understanding the Maccabeans. First, you got to understand the Maccabean Revolt. All right, these Jewish wars was from 168 to 164. You're basing that in 4 years that these people lost who they were and they don't understand that they're Israelites anymore. That's problematic. That's not, that's not very rational, man. It's not very rational thinking if we're saying that. All right. And also, not understanding the northern kingdom in their captivity with the Assyrians in the Ezra 4:2. In the First Kings, I think it's First Kings 17 or Second Kings 17. Not understanding their captivity and understanding Samaria, all right, and the beef between Samaria and Judea, and understanding the Galilee of the Gentiles, or Gentiles of Galilee. So first layer, understand the Maccabean Revolt. That was only a year long. That thing was less than a year of these folks putting that certain persecution on. We're reading about that lady that sister boiling her kids not to eat the king's pork. We talking about these things happening within a year. And there's probably way more stories of, things that was terrible like that was happening to us. But again, it was a year. And we rededicated the table because we brought ourselves back. We brought ourselves back to the law. Okay, so we can't, you can't celebrate the feast of dedication and then say, oh man, these folks this Northern Kingdom, they don't know who they are. Like, rather, they rededicated the temple, put themselves back in the law, man. You know what I'm saying? When did they do that? When did the war start? Understand these things. All right. With that, I say shalom. I hope this was a blessing to the body, and that we got some kind of form of edification.